also been working on sharing our ideas with our peers, which I know is not always the easiest to do, but you guys have done a great job. Okay, let us see.
So what do we know now? Let's take another look at our matter and energy flow chart. We need to add decomposers. They get their matter by breaking down the waste and dead matter living things leave behind.
It's an important
As
image.
dead and waste matter decomposes, nutrients are released in the soil. These nutrients will help plants grow and the cycle will start again. We are going to write a scientific argument to show our understanding of what happens to matter in an ecosystem. Let's recap what a scientific argument is. A scientific argument starts with a claim. Remember, scientists describe how evidence from investigations support their claim. This is their reasoning. We need evidence and reasoning to make a convincing argument. There are two claims for you to choose from in your twig book. Number one, matter disappears from an ecosystem. And number two, matter cycles through an ecosystem. Select one claim, then record 3 pieces of evidence you will use to support it in the chart. Where can you find your evidence? Yes, you can use the Fighting for Scraps article, the Decomposers video, and the decomposition investigation we conducted. Once you've identified your evidence, write your scientific argument in the Argue from Evidence section in the twig book. After writing your argument, use the Matter in an Ecosystem Writing a Scientific Argument rubric visual to self-assess your work and revise your argument. Good luck!
And we're not just going to leave you hanging. We're going to give you some guidance. One of the things you'll do before you even start writing anything on your paper is discussing which of those claims would be appropriate. We learned on our last exercise where we had to choose one of the claims that you could choose either one as long as you came up with the right evidence to support your claim, right? You're going to want to ask yourself, is that true here? Are both of those claims correct and I just have to pick one and support it? Or is, in fact, only one of them correct and I need to make sure I start with the right one? Okay?
Okay. So, and over here, these are not the exact sources we're going to use, but there's still ways that you can set up how you're going to use that source in your writing. Just if you sit down. Willie, could you read the question for us? The prompt.
What happens to matter in an ecosystem?
What happens to matter in an ecosystem? Where have you heard that question
I
before?
feel like you've answered this so many times.
Yes.
This whole section has been on it, right? That is our driving question. So we have 2 different options for how we feel to answer this. How would you say that? First, matter disappears from an ecosystem, or matter cycles through an ecosystem. Turn and talk to your partner for 15 seconds and just say what claim you think you're going to choose.
Sorry, Davey, your partner disappeared. I'll come over and be your partner for a moment.
Well, you weren't listening. All we're doing is deciding what claim we're going to choose. I did not tell you guys what you're doing with that paper yet, by the way. Did not tell you. I have no point. So let's see what we said. Without using your words, raise your hand if you are going to choose that matter disappears from an ecosystem. What about matter cycles through an ecosystem? All right, so we have a pretty clear answer, right? What happens to matter in an ecosystem? It cycles. It cycles. Very, very true. And we have learned this in multiple different ways, using multiple things, but not socializing. That hasn't helped us. So, let's see if we can name examples of sources we have used so far. Don't explain the source, just tell me the source, okay? What's one thing that we have done? One activity, one thing we've used to write, to study, do that.
We used it's a, I forgot what it's called, it's a web.
The food web model?
Yeah, food web.
Yep.
Read an article about
We did. Yes, we read that article, Fighting for Scraps. Yes, the ocean ecosystem model. The food chain model. Well, that talks about part of the.
They went more to the
Yeah.
food web rather than the food chain.
Right.
The food web goes a little bit broader. Food chains are great to start with, but the food web is what expands it. Like, there's more than one thing that eats a willow tree, right? There's more than one predator that eats a rabbit. So the food web allows us to expand those food chains and show those arrows that cross over each other. Okay, and that's what we just saw in this video. They showed the one that had everything on it, including the decomposers now in the middle. So that's the web you'd want to rely on for your resource.
And so we have basically answered this question in multiple different ways, right? Using multiple different forms of resources and ways of learning different types, right? Okay. So we are going to be answering this question, or the prompt, what happens to matter in the ecosystem? And we know that answer is that it cycles through by showing how we know this, and doing so by giving evidence in the text. For example, if we were going to, and I'll give you guys these, but if we were going to use the article, Fighting for Scraps, and say, I know that, or say, in the article, Fighting for Scraps, it says that decomposers break down matter and the nutrients goes back into the soil. Okay.
Would that be a great sentence to support your thinking?
Yes.
And that sentence comes right out of Fighting for Scraps. So if we reference that, we're citing our evidence.
And if I wanted to use the model, the matter cycling model, you could say the matter cycling model shows that matter, or shows that blank happens to matter in an ecosystem
And we
by.
could go right back to that image. Just slide that back a tiny bit. I wouldn't go back to the whole bit. Yeah, it's near the end of the video. It was in the video. It was the last.
So what do we know now?
Slide it almost to the end.
Let's take another
There,
look at our
right there.
matter and energy flow chart. We need to add decomposers.
You've got to be able to.
They get their
spot. You
matter
can't
by
go down
breaking
there.
down the waste and dead matter living things leave behind.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get it to stop. Okay, so at the end of that, I feel like, I'm gonna go to her third video. And these are the two planes. I feel like there was a spot in there. I wanna see if I can control
So
it from
what
here.
do we
Here
know
go.
now?
Used correctly.
Cycle will start.
Stop. All right, I know it's a little smaller, but this is the only way I can manage to identify the This is that web I was talking about, Ari. Okay? It's more than a food chain. It's a whole bunch of things crisscrossing, right? And that's why it's a little bit more broad and shows us an entire ecosystem rather than just one string of it. But we see that decomposers have finally been added to this model. And that's what we want to reference when we're citing evidence. We're saying that decomposers are the last part of that cycle. But that's not the end. It's not that, is it? Is that the end? When a thing is finally done and decomposed, is everything over?
No.
What does it lead to? What's next? What happens to that decomposed matter? Did it disappear? You guys told me it didn't disappear, right? What does it do? Jonathan, do you have an idea?
I think I went through
Where? Where did that decomposed matter go, Jonathan?
an ecosystem.
And it is in the ecosystem. Lisbeth?
It's decomposed.
It's decomposed already. The decomposing process has ended. Where did that matter go? Did it go poof in the air?
No.
Lisbeth?
It's recycled.
How? Where? Where did it go?
Who has heard of a compost bin?
Where did it go? Yes, sir?
It went to the soil.
It went into the soil. And it starts our whole cycle all over again, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because what's the very first thing we
Sun.
discovered, that we talked about when we were discussing an ecosystem?
Sun.
The plants, yeah. And do the plants need the soil?
Yes.
And what did that decomposed item put into the soil?
Nutrients.
That big N word, right? The nutrients.
And then it goes to the
Yes, it just keeps, it's ongoing, right? And that's what we're meant to see here. We started off, when we looked at this picture the very first time, all that was present were the plants.
Yeah.
And then we added our small animals, and then we added the predators, and now we're to the decomposers, and now we have a complete system, don't we? Is there anybody who does not understand that concept right now? You sure? A lot of wiggle worms in here. I just want to make sure. Princess, we're good? Tag, you're it.
And if you want to use a model and not just say it shows that it cycles, which is basically not really, it gives you your claim, but it doesn't actually really state how or why. You could say something like, when an animal eats a plant, it gets matter from the plant. When a different animal eats that animal, it gets matter from that. When the animal dies, it begins to, or you can say scavenger, or it then goes to decomposers who break down that material and recycle it back into the soil. Right? You can do that in your own words, probably just by looking at it. Sometimes saying it out loud, just say what it's doing. It's not really like, you don't have to twist the words or try to think of some hidden meaning. It just straight up facts. Okay? So, it is almost lunchtime, but if we wanted to use the decomposition experiment that with the soil and such, how could we use that? How could we use the video, the different bags?
To show, what's it called? Sorry. Wait, what was the?
Sorry. If we wanted to use the decomposition experiment as a source.
Oh, what's it called? We could say that the ones with the soil was decomposed more than others and got the more land and bacteria, and that the other ones had less. The ones with no soil had less decomposition things in it, and had less bacteria, and the cheese just got moldy and it turned a different color.
Nice. And you even backed it up with observations. And last thing, you can cite two different sources in one point. For example, in the decomposition experiment, I saw that the plants or whatever started to break down. When we read this article, I saw that it broke down because, or something like that, right? You can finish your point with another piece of evidence. And last thing, and then lunchtime.
You watch the food web and it's like the ocean ecosystem.
Yeah. You can even tie it to another source. If you're able to tie sources together and back to your point, +1 for you, brownie points.
You know,